Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And in today's episode, I'm going to update my opening day roster projections. There are some changes in the bullpen and also a change to the outfield depth. Who finds some new spots in my latest version? Well, I'll tell you on today's episode. Also, we didn't really do a great job of celebrating Bryce Harper's anniversary of signing here on the day. So we're going to look back today and give him the proper due for everything he's done to change this franchise. And we are 27 days away from opening day in our opening day countdown. All of that and more on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that helps us out. I really appreciate it. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And today's Friday. And it's the first day of March, so we are officially into the month that the Philadelphia Phillies will play competitive regular season baseball. It's right around the corner, 27 days away. So we'll continue our countdown later on in the episode. But because it's Friday, it's time to update our opening day roster projection. This will be version 4. I've done 3 versions so far, and you can go back and scroll through the episodes and find them. Then we do our final response to what the roster is. As I smack my microphone, sorry about the noise. I'm going to go back to my initial projection. I'm going to see how close I got it. So I'm going to hold myself accountable. I won't just be like, maybe I got it right, maybe I got it wrong. But I'm also going to update stuff so we can talk further about guys that are getting closer to making the team and guys that are getting further away. So we're going to do it all in one segment because there are a lot of locks. JT Realmuto and Garrett Stubbs are still both locks. Rafael Marchand has had a bit of an injury issue in spring training. He hasn't really challenged for the position because of it. Stubbs is going to be the backup catcher. JT is going to be your starter. The infield's completely set. Harper, Stott, Turner, Bohm, Sosa. I know Derek Hall had a home run earlier on in the spring training. He's not going to be on the team to start the year. He could be if Bryce Harper has an issue at first base or something, but the infield is all set, all locks. In the outfield, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Brandon Marsh, and Whit Merrifield are all locks to make the team as well. But there were 2 guys down there that I did not have as locks. My last projection had Johan Rojas and Jake Cave making the team. Rojas, I think, has taken a further step in the right direction. He hasn't done anything that I would look at and say, he doesn't deserve to be on the team. So right now, he's still on the team. Not a lock yet. Things still could change. You have 27 days till opening day. But I'm removing Jake Cave from version 3. And I'm putting, for version 4, I should say, I'm putting Christian Pache on the darn team. He's been outstanding offensively, solid defensively. I mean, the guy's got multiple home runs this spring. He's looked really, really good when it comes to his approach at the plate, his ability to lift the baseball, the power he has. He's always been an athlete, but he's looking a lot more like a professional hitter right now. We talked about that with Rojas, and we said this dude needs to figure it out. We didn't really talk about what if Rojas and Pache both figure it out. What if hitting coach Kevin Long has the secret sauce that makes these guys both reach their potential? Then you have 2 rangy, athletic outfielders. Maybe some pop potential there, but you don't even need it. You just look at guys that are plus defenders. Like, think about this, because Pache is going to be here for a minute unless the Phillies choose to release him for lack of production or anything. Could you imagine an outfield? And this would obviously be before Justin Crawford comes up, and their young prospect that's going to be a 5-tool outfield player. But Johan Rojas in center, Brandon Marsh in left, Christian Pache in right. That is going to be the best defensive outfield in baseball, as long as these guys stay on the path they're on as far as their ability to defend. Now, right now, it's Nick Castellanos' spot and right, and that's not changing. I'm just saying, like, if Pache can hit, defensively, this team gets a lot better if that guy can play. And I like him as a bench bat because he can steal bases, He can be a defensive replacement. And if he can hit, well, you got an opportunity. You remember that game down in Miami against the Marlins last year where he hit like that last-second game-tying home run? Or was it a go-ahead home run? Whatever the case was, last-minute clutch home run and a pinch hit at bat. Like, he might have something there. So right now, Christian Pache, the leader in the clubhouse for that final spot as far as position players on the opening day roster. I'm adding another lock to the pitching side of the equation here as well. So I already had Wheeler, Walker, Nola, Suarez as locks in the starting rotation. Christopher Sanchez, he's getting a lock next to his name. The Phillies aren't making any other moves as starter. Jordan Montgomery wants too much money. There's no one else out there that really seems to fit in with the Philadelphia Phillies plans. I don't think that they're going to make another move, which means Christopher Sanchez is locked into that fifth spot in the rotation. So I guess now it's kind of time to try and figure out a hierarchy for the rotation. It'll be Nola on opening day because it's always Nola on opening day. Wheeler second. I imagine it'll be Suarez third, Walker fourth, Sanchez fifth. And that would be your rotation hierarchy. Your best pitcher, Zach Wheeler. Your guy that's getting the ball first is Aaron Nola, at least to start the season. I would imagine that's how the Phillies have done it the past couple of years. But your starting five, starting five, it's not basketball. Your starting rotation seems to be locked in at this point to me. I'm willing to put locks on all of those guys. We also had in the bullpen 5 guys that were locked into making the opening day roster to throw in relief. Gregory Soto, Seranthony Dominguez, Jose Alvarado, Matt Strahm, Jeff Hoffman. Now, those guys have looked pretty darn solid this spring. I mean, Dominguez, Alvarado, nice couple outings. Matt Strahm has thrown well. Gregory Soto, you can tell he's got stuff, control. We got to see if he figures it out. I haven't seen anything from anybody that says, okay, Soto, Dominguez, Alvarado, Strahm, and Hoffman are not going to make the team. They are still locks. My 3 guys that were listed that were not locks were Orion Kerkering, Nick Nelson, and Dylan Covey. Now, I still feel confident that Orion Kerkering is going to make the team. Not confident enough to put a lock on it, but I still feel good he's going to make the team. Dylan Covey's looked pretty darn good. His strikeout numbers are good. He's had 2 innings of work, and he's looked pretty darn solid, at least for spring training. I don't have a lot of faith in Dylan Covey to throw big innings for this team, but I do think he still has an inside track to make the team as of this moment. So he's staying on there. But Nick Nelson has been dreadful. I'm deleting his name typing right now as we talk. Nick Nelson has not been good in spring training. He has not taken advantage of the opportunity he had to get a spot in this bullpen. And I'm going to look at a guy that really helped this team 2 years ago who has had a solid start to the spring. And Andrew Bellotti is going to get the final spot in the bullpen in my version 4.0 of the opening day roster predictions. There's a couple reasons. First of all, Bellotti has shown that he could pitch at the major league level. That's the key. It's not just like a nobody who's had 2 good innings and then I'm like, oh, immediately he's on the team. No, he was an important playoff level pitcher during that World Series run for them. And then he fell off this past year. It looks like he's been really good. And he's a guy that I think the Philadelphia Phillies have faith in to some extent. And if he has a good spring, I could see him being on the roster. Similar to Dylan Covey, right? You're well aware of the limitations of the player, but he's proven himself at the major league level a couple of times, had a good enough spring. It's going to be hard to keep those 2 guys off the roster, I think, unless you make some moves. And listen, free agency is still ongoing. There are still guys out there you could go acquire that are free agent relief pitchers that could change this whole thing, which is why Kerkering's not a lock, Covey's not a lock, Bellotti's not a lock, but that's what the bullpen's looking like. If I had to pick right now what your bullpen looks like on opening day, it'd be Soto, Dominguez, Alvarado, Strahm, Hoffman, Kerkering, Covey, Bellotti. So a couple things changed in there. I've got Christian Pache jumping Jay Cave for a spot. I've got Andrew Bellotti jumping Nick Nelson, who has not looked good at all this spring for a spot. Going back to the Jay Cave thing, he hasn't looked bad. Pache's just looked significantly better. And also, if you're the person who's on YouTube just commenting Christian Pache's name over and over and over again, just Pache, 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 Pache. Yes, I see the comments. Yes, Pache's having a good spring. I'd be happy if he made the team. We're all on the same side here, folks. My goodness. But yes, that is my opening day roster prediction. So one more time, I'll just read it top to bottom. JT, Garrett Stubbs, Harper, Stott, Turner, Bohm, Sosa in the infield. Schwarber, Castellanos, Marsh, Merrifield, Rojas, and Pache in the outfield. 13 guys as position players. The 13 pitchers, again, are Wheeler, Walker, Nola, Suarez, Sanchez in the starting rotation. Soto, Dominguez, Alvarado, Strom, Hoffman, Kirkering, Covey, and Velotti in the bullpen. And that sounds like a pretty darn good baseball team to me. I don't know about you out there, folks, but let me know if there's any guys that you think that deserve to make the roster that I'm missing here. But I think that's a pretty solid look at it with only 27 days till opening day. We'll see you next Friday if anything changes over the coming 7 days. And if so, we'll update that even further. Or it could be that I've kind of nailed it down to this point. The Phillies have kind of nailed it down. We'll see how it all plays out. But it's fun to kind of project out as we draw closer to opening day. Now, coming up, it's not the true anniversary, but 5 years ago this week, Bryce Harper signed with the Philadelphia Phillies. We didn't dive too deep into it on the actual day of the anniversary because there was other pressing things to talk about. But I want to take the time to credit Bryce Harper for everything he's done for this franchise. And we'll do that coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, I want to tell you about FanDuel because you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. You can place a $5 bet on anything. It could be minus 10 billion odds, the safest bet in the world. But if you bet $5 and you win it, new customers will get $150 in bonus bets. Perfect way to set up yourself to have a lot of capital to gamble with there on FanDuel Sportsbook. And it's great. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams. You got quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. The Sixers are playing awful basketball right now. So do you want to fade the hometown team, fade the Sixers, and just say, I'm just going to bet against them until they prove they can actually win again? Might be smart. Might be a way to get your $150 in bonus bets. You can also bet money line, spread, over, under, player props, futures, all that great stuff with FanDuel. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot today. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right. Yes, the anniversary of Bryce Harper signing with the Philadelphia Phillies was 2 days ago, February 28th, 2019. So 2 days ago was the 5-year anniversary. And I want to just break down what exactly this guy has meant to this team. When Bryce Harper joined this team in 2019, they were, 9 years into a playoff drought, 8 years into a playoff drought, where they just hadn't made it back and coming up on a decade. 2020 was kind of weird. 2021 was close, but no cigar. 2022 was the year they finally broke through. So it took them a little bit, but let's look at what's happened with this franchise since Bryce Harper took over during a period of irrelevancy for the Philadelphia Phillies. They re-signed JT Realmuto. That may or may not happen without Bryce Harper. They signed Zach Wheeler. That may or may not happen without Bryce Harper. Those are the ones that are early on enough that you can say maybe that was the Phillies making smart moves. Maybe that was Bryce Harper recruiting. I think it was a combination of both. But let's go on even further because then Bryce Harper wins the MVP award in 2021. He has a monstrous season. Looks incredible for the Philadelphia Phillies. His second National League MVP, the first Philly to win it since Jimmy Rollins, I believe, was the last one. And it was either Jimmy or Ryan Howard. They had those close ones back in the early 2000s or mid-2000s. But anyway, he's the first Philadelphia athlete to win one since like 2007. So, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. And you know what happens? Kyle Schwarber wouldn't be here without Bryce Harper. Nick Castellanos wouldn't be here without Bryce Harper. They go out and they get both of those guys in free agency the next year to put them over the top. They make the run to the World Series that year with Bryce Harper fighting through a torn UCL. He needed to get the Tommy John surgery, and he played through it to go out there and find a way to fight for the Philadelphia Phillies. And he even hit the Bedlam at the Bank homer to send them to the World Series, the biggest home run I've ever seen in Philadelphia Phillies history. That's the biggest one I've ever seen. There might be some from back in the day that you say, oh, that was a bigger one. The moment, the player, it was magical. So he has the magic moments. I mean, think, even before that, he had hit the walk-off grand slam against the Cubs back in 2019, I believe that would have been. Like, he was just He's clutch. He's recruited great players. I mean, the next offseason who comes up, Trey Turner signs here with the Philadelphia Phillies. Bryson Stott knows Bryce Harper well from out in Las Vegas. Bryce Harper took him under his wing. Bryson Stott is now a Gold Glove caliber second baseman and a really good breakout star potential for the Philadelphia Phillies this year. Bryce Harper has completely retooled the Philadelphia Phillies as a player himself while playing outstanding baseball. When he came here 5 years ago, it is one of the biggest transactions in not just Phillies history, Philadelphia sports history. 13 years, $330 million. I know he wants the contract extension now. We've had the conversations about whether or not that seems to be smart for the Philadelphia Phillies to do that. People are on either side of that one. But what no one's denying is the fact that Bryce Harper has completely revolutionized this franchise. And what's better about Harper than any of the other superstars in this city, Jalen Hurts for the Eagles, Joel Embiid for the Sixers, Harper was not drafted here. Harper picked here. He had other options. San Francisco, the Giants, came in with a very similar offer to the Philadelphia Phillies. Harper picked Philadelphia. He could have gone other places for less money that he liked more, but he picked the Philadelphia Phillies because he wanted to build a family here. He wanted to spend the rest of his career here. He wanted to play for this fan base. He wanted to bring us great moments like he has over the past 5 years. And he's delivered. I mean, I find it hard to believe he's not going to have another MVP trophy, but even if he doesn't, 2021 was an insane year that we'll always remember. 2022, leading this team to the World Series and tearing the cover off the ball in the postseason. 2023, doing the same thing until the final 2 games of the NLCS. But that's okay. Well, that's more on the team than it is on Bryce Harper. Like, he's been outstanding as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. On top of that, coming back from injury, Tommy John surgery, faster than anybody ever has. Like, this dude has been a cyborg, a recruiter, a machine on the field, and an absolute joy to have in the organization in the city. I can't say enough good things about Bryce Harper, and I honestly can't think about a move made in my lifetime for any Philadelphia sports team that was as instantly impactful as when Bryce Harper decided he was going to play for the Philadelphia Phillies. From the second that guy decided this franchise was going to be his home, everything changed. And that's why we have all of the great things we have now, from an all-star lineup to a World Series appearance and an NL pennant to chances to win every single year to re-signing players before they get a chance to go other places because you want to play in Philly, to having Red October back. That's it, right? We probably would have been happy, like not as happy as we are now, but we probably would have been happy just seeing Red October again, getting a taste of what that's like. There were kids that had never seen it before. Bryce Harper is a big reason that is back for the Philadelphia Phillies. So I didn't have a chance on the actual day of the anniversary, at least on here. I talked about it on the radio, but not on this podcast, to give him his due for just being, I don't know, an amazing person, athlete, and an ambassador for the team and the city. We're very lucky to have him. There are very few organizations in baseball that have a guy like Bryce Harper that is not homegrown, but chose you for the long term. And that is awesome to see. Maybe in 2024, this is a year where he gets back to MVP caliber form. Maybe his buddy Trey Turner joins him, and they're the pairing that leads the Philadelphia Phillies to their first World Series since 2008, and their third in franchise history. It could be, but I'll tell you what, whenever this team lifts a trophy next, if it's in the next 7 to 10 years, Bryce Harper will be a direct reason why the Philadelphia Phillies were able to do that. And for that, we say thank you to Bryce and also to John Middleton for being willing to pay for a valuable asset to his franchise. So, fun anniversary this week, fun thing to think about, and a lot more good times to come with the Philadelphia Phillies and Bryce Harper. Coming up as we wrap up today's episode, in our opening day countdown, there are 27 days till opening day. Who's the best Philly to ever wear number 27? Well, I would argue, I think a lot of you would as well, that he's currently on the roster and almost wasn't at the end of this past season. So who could that be? I think you can figure it out, but we'll discuss who it is next as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Yes, opening day countdown, day number 27. Who in the world could be the best 27 in Philadelphia Phillies history? There have been some solid ones recently. The guy that I remember from 2003 to 2012 wore 27, Placido Polanco. That was like my 27 growing up, and I loved Placido Polanco. Versatile infielder, solid hitter. Like he was a fun guy to watch. He really was. Ricky Bottalico, who was on the list a couple like way back at the beginning, up in the 40s, he wore 27 from 2001 to 2002. Now he's not going to make the list twice, but Ricky Bo's my guy. So yes, Ricky Bo wore 27 a couple times. Willie Montañez wore 27 back from 1971 to 1975. Looking at some of the old heads that were Willie Montañez guys. There are some interesting names on this list, but none of them are better than the guy who currently wears number 27. Aaron Nola is the best number 27 in the Philadelphia Phillies history. He has been in the Cy Young conversation before. Like, he is in this situation where he just got paid a boatload amount of money based on his ability. He's a clutch performer in the postseason. He's a guy that has been homegrown for the Philadelphia Phillies. As much as we talk about how it's cool Bryce Harper chose us, it's also very cool that the Phillies have developed a player like Aaron Nola, and he's going to spend basically his whole career playing here in Philadelphia. That's a good thing. And I know he's up and down, but the talent is undeniable. When he is on, he is one of the best pitchers in Philadelphia Phillies history. When he's off, well, okay, well, let's not talk about that. Let's hope that this is a good year, an even year for Aaron Nola. But however you see it, the guy is the best 27 in Philadelphia Phillies history. There are other good players. Aaron Nola is a great player. So he deserves to have it, and maybe he'll add to that legacy this year in 27 days when I imagine he'll be the one to take the ball on opening day against the Atlanta Braves on March 28th. It's this month, folks. It's right around the corner, and we're going to continue our countdown every day. It's another number lower and another day closer to Philadelphia Phillies baseball up here at Citizens Bank Park. The Atlanta Braves coming in. A great opportunity to start off the season with a really fun series, and one that will give you an early measuring stick to the NL East race that is sure to happen this year between the Phillies and the Braves. I'm getting juiced up just thinking about it. Phillies baseball is right around the corner. I've been watching spring training when I can, when it is on TV. Folks, when you see the calendar turn to March, that means that we are officially into the first month of the baseball season calendar. The weather's going to start to break. The teams are going to come north, and the season's going to begin. It's right around the corner. We've got a lot of your news and everything you need to know between now and then here on Locked On Phillies. That's all for today's episode, though. So thank you so much for checking us out. It's been another great week here on Locked On Phillies. Remember, Mailbag Monday is coming your way on Monday. I'm going to put a tweet out at LO_Phillies, and you can see it on my Twitter account as well at ConnorThomas975, which you can see in the bottom corner over here if you're watching on YouTube, and just respond with some questions of things that you have with the Philadelphia Phillies and what they're facing right now. We got a bunch more this past week than we have in the past, so continue to give your questions. And to this point, I believe I've answered all of the ones on Twitter that we've gotten. So I am going to try and get to every single one of your questions. So we'll do that for Mailbag Monday coming up. But again, that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff there. And I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.